Welcome to Deeper with Darshana, where we skip the small talk and dive down into what's raw and real. Pleasure, shame, justice, power, healing, liberation. These essential aspects of our human experience are among my favorite topics to explore, and I'm inviting you to join me. I'm your host, Darshana Avila, somatic sex and trauma expert and creator of the Erotic Wholeness Method. It is my belief that we are erotic by nature, and our erotic nature encompasses so much more than you might realize. Come along as I drop into curious conversations with other passionate pros and sensual seekers, and occasionally share musings of my own. Bring your curiosity, your sacred, messy, beautiful humanity, and all the parts of yourself. And let's go deeper together. Hello, my loves, and welcome back to Deeper with Darshana. Today's conversation is a beautiful one, full of real talk storytelling from the lived experiences of Marina, who is a renowned somatic coach. We geeked out a lot on our respective love of nervous system tending, trauma healing, and she shares from her journey of being born in the Ukraine, emigrating to Israel, ending up in the US, and now Costa Rica. And all of the relational pieces and the nervous system tending that she's had to do to come out from honestly crippling perfectionism, overeating, not being able to have her voice speak for needs and desires in relationships to where she presently is. And that's having helped thousands of people to address their triggers, step into their emotional healing, and to regulate their nervous systems. You're going to love this one. So please go ahead, sit back, enjoy, listen in, and I will see you on the other side. Welcome back to Deeper with Darshana. Marina, I am so thrilled to have you here. Thanks for being a yes to this conversation.
I'm so happy to be here. And funny enough, our podcasts are named very similarly, which I love that.
Tell us the name of your podcast for those who are listening.
Deep Within.
Deep within, because you and I are somatic nerds who really like to go deep within.
There you go.
And I know, like so many of us, heal or heal thyself, like you've been on your journey that where undoubtedly the very tools that you are supporting others with or the very things that support you. And I've certainly walked that myself. And today we're going to get into a conversation about ease. And God, do we need that right now?
Yeah.
On so many levels, like what it is to orient ourselves toward ease and how that can be something that is more generated inwardly, right? Sourced from within instead of all the external validation seeking and the, put a spa day on it type stuff. So without further ado, no offense to spa days, I'm a fan.
They're good too. Yes,
they are good too. I'd love to hear why this topic isn't exciting to you, enlivening to you.
I think because I didn't have ease for so much of my life. I got divorced almost 2 years ago now, and I just found myself saying again and again and again, why is everything so hard? I would tell my therapist, why is everything so hard? And she was like, because you want to heal. So I said, but why is everything so hard? And she's like, because you want to heal fast. Like, no.
How'd that work out for you, the whole healing fast thing? Because I don't know.
No.
I haven't seen that.
No, that for sure doesn't work out. But, just like I got so curious, like whenever something is not working out in my life, like I feel like everything is hard and I want to explore how can I make it easier? What is the way to live life more easily? I feel like whenever I teach on it, then I always learn myself the best way,
Right.
Yeah, and at that time,
you're immersing yourself, and repetition counts for a lot.
Yes. And the time of the divorce also, I'm from Ukraine and Israel and the United States. So it was all happening in those countries, in my divorce. And then I got estranged from my family. And then my business was like falling apart. I mean, it all happened at once.
Wow.
So yeah, it was a lot.
And here you are. So
Yeah.
I don't want to like just jump past that it was hard, it was a lot. I want to give that a bit of space. And I want to invite our listeners to do the same for whatever their version of a lot is, because I know we all have it. And at the risk of that very cliche, like what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, if you choose your healing, if you choose that. And so how is it that just 2 years ago, your life was, it sounds like pretty freaking upended, and you're in Costa Rica right now joining me for this conversation, and life looks good on you? To talk to us about that.
I mean, life has its ups and downs still. It's funny because sometimes I find myself like on the beach here drinking a coconut. I'm like, oh my God, this is so cliche, like how everyone thinks of Costa Rica. But I live here alone as a single woman in my house, and it's challenging, like my car breaks down all the time. So fixing that, and in Spanish and in a foreign country and all these things, like navigating all these things. I agree with you that it makes me for sure stronger. I mean, getting divorced in a foreign country, like that makes you stronger. I think if you have the proper resourcing, as we know in somatics, what a beautiful concept, like external and internal. So like sources of safety, sources of support, sources that help you meet the challenge equally, with an equal intensity as the challenge. That's huge. And so I have really amazing soul friends, soul family. That's what I would kind of credit number one in creating that, and I think that my healing helped me to create that. I've always been good at connecting with people, but I think that now I have friendships that are deeper and more meaningful, and where I can really be myself, truly.
So relate to that. I mean, I was filling out a spreadsheet, not a spreadsheet, like a Google form for a matchmaking database. Okay. So I too am single, and it was asking a question about attachment style and what you've done to like work towards secure attachment.
Oh, wow.
And I've done a lot. I am therapized, I am workshopped, I am dark nighted of the soul, like all these things. And I think the single biggest thing that I have done to shift from a more anxious attachment style to that earned secure is intimate friendship, is really deep, vulnerable, emotionally invested. We show up, we repair, we are in it friendships, and recognizing that not everybody's got that going on. Like, it's actually a very special thing to choose, and it's quite a crucible for growth and healing if you let it be, because just because it's not your sexual partner or your life partner doesn't mean it's any less deep and that in moments can be just as challenging. So I'm curious a little more about, especially given all of the displacement in your life, where you've literally moved country to country, culture to culture, going through the things that you went through. How is it that you've come to build these deep soul friendships?
I love that you reminded us that it helps to create secure attachment, because I've been reflecting a lot on disconfirming experiences lately. It's just like really present for me. And I think that's what it is. Like, you have experiences with people that are so different from your childhood. I wouldn't say opposite, because just different, and so healing and healthy and nurturing. And that's what we want for intimacy, right? Yeah. So my friendships, well, I lived in San Diego for 7 years before moving to Costa Rica. So I have a lot of friendships there. But what's really interesting is like my friendships here that I've cultivated in the last even year, because of the healing that I've done, I feel like they're much more vulnerable and intimate and real than friendships I used to have in the past.
Mm-hmm.
It's because of how I show up, and just like I could I mean, years ago, I could never cry. Like the people who saw me cry were literally like 3 people in my life. And now I have friendships where I can do that. You know, I can like call a friend and like really break down with them and feel so held and supported. And that is something I could never, ever, ever do. So yeah, it's I think it wasn't intentional. It wasn't like I filled out something and said, okay, you know, I need to find a legal form for that. That would be nice. I really want to hear what you filled out because these questions are very special. I love them. You don't see that like in a normal dating app.
No, this is not a normal thing.
Okay. Got it. But you know, it's just, yeah, I think it's just through healing. Like they also say you attract a partner because you work on your healing and that comes your way. So
yeah. I mean, and I think too, whether we're speaking about calling in and magnetizing friendship, romantic partner, it also plays out in our existing relationships, this phenomenon that when you change, right? So when we do our own work of cultivating more ease, being more resourced, opening to vulnerability, our relationships can't help but change, right? So some of them will get even more affirmed and add more depth and dimension. And then we know others, not so much.
Yep, absolutely. And I've had friendships that either some ended, some changed forms, like not as close anymore, you know, because I used to be doing all the work in all of my relationships. And that has changed a lot. So that feels so much lighter. Like I feel like I have relationships that are way more reciprocal.
Can we back it up to what it was like when you were doing all the work in your relationships? Because we're here to talk about ease. And I don't know about you, but my journey to feeling more ease and peace has absolutely been reckoning with all of the dis-ease and all of the stress.
Totally.
I got my stories. Let's hear yours. What did past Marina look like in relationship with others? How were you overdoing it?
These are such good questions. And that's exactly what the definition of unease is to me. It's just constant hypervigilance over every little thing that I say or do. And I still have obviously some of that, but it's way less. Like, oh my God, did I hurt this person's feelings? Like just feeling like I'm in charge of everybody's emotions and I constantly have to monitor everybody and myself and police everything I do. And that person's going to leave me. That person's going to leave me. I can't say that. I can't do this. If I'm like a few minutes late, I start noticing like, is that person upset? What are they doing now? What are they, you know, are they sending me any cues? Nonverbal cues that they're upset with me, all like just constant monitoring. And it happened in my case because my mom was my like closest connection in my family, and she's very fearful and overwhelmed, and she would easily just avoid me, avoid connection if she got overwhelmed. So it became my job to always make sure she was okay.
So you've been groomed.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. As many of us are by our family of origins, you know, and you have the vocabulary and the awareness to speak of that now. And what I'm hearing is I heard very clearly the voice of the one who fears abandonment, and then the insane amount of self-assigned responsibility that comes along with that. So perfectionism, being the good girl, the people pleaser, the caretaker, these archetypes that in my schema, you know, archetypes of protection, embodied protection, right? But they get really out of hand. And there's no ease in that. The vigilance that you described sounds absolutely exhausting, even just to hear you relay like that little snippet of it. It's like, oh my gosh, like when do you rest?
No, what are you talking about? What? On top of that, everything was maximized in my life. Like I had to work out until I almost passed out. I had to be working every hour of the day. On the weekends, I had to hike like 14 miles. It was just everything was so intense. I don't know how I'm still alive. Like,
seriously, I'm like, I think you're outdoing me right there. And I thought I had intensity issues.
yeah, it was bad. It was so bad. I never rested. And my rest had to be like, oh yeah, I need to rest. Okay. Like, just everything was very structured and intense, and there wasn't any like flow because my nervous system was so rigid, like from birth. I mean, I was born in the USSR. We were refugees leaving the USSR. Like everything was, and we came to Israel in the Gulf War when there was chemical weapons. Like just my whole
not at ease. To say the very least.
Yes.
And in a nerve, I mean, you and I know this, and I want to put this out there as like just a little like moment of education. It's like a nervous system that has been entrained to that level of hypervigilance and constant activity and constant doing literally does not know how to rest anymore. So whatever we were intrinsically born with, and I do believe that we all are born with that capacity, but like it's so far away that, and I know this myself, where like it shows up for me. Anytime, like I'm just on the other side of a cold as we're recording this, anytime I sense myself getting sick, which doesn't happen all that often, knock on wood, thankfully, but anytime it comes on, there's a part of me that's like, no, we are not getting sick. Take the immune stuff, take the zinc, do the things like it's not happening. And I'm like, wow. Like my poor little immune system is just tired. My body's tired. Why am I fighting this? Because like you, this is a nervous system that did not know how to rest, where it wasn't safe to do that. So I offer that for my little bit of psychoeducation for those listening. How have you cracked the code, if that's the way you describe it? And maybe you don't call it cracking the code, but how have you supported yourself? How have you trained yourself to allow ease? Because I know this is a big thing that you're up to in the world, helping others. And so how did you do it for you first and foremost?
Oh man. Well, when I was, it kind of was forced upon me, I would say. When I think of it in terms of my addictions, actually. So like workaholism, overeating. So learning emotions was like the first thing in my somatic healing journey, is like learning how to just feel internally. I couldn't express it yet. That felt terrifying, but just inside, like, oh, okay, this is sadness. This is anger. So that just kicked out overeating. I didn't even try. It just like happened on its own. It was really cool. Then I was still
you would name the feeling, and that would stop you from like shoving the pizza in your mouth.
Not even that, like just it wasn't even in the moment of like, oh, I really want to overeat, so I'm going to name the feeling. It was like in my daily life, like suddenly, oh, I'm feeling sad. Like that was not a thing. Like it was like, I don't feel things. I just like do. Like
giving it a name and giving it just that little bit of a like recognition stopped that compulsive behavior from even coming on.
Yeah, I was trying to like comfort myself, soothe myself, and not feel, because the emotions were there. So I wanted to shove them down, and I'm very sensitive, of course. So that was the first thing. And then when I was moving here, which was 3 years ago, I broke my body. Like I worked out so hard. And also the immigration trauma came up. Like, oh my God, I'm immigrating again. And so I did what I call my last kettlebell workout. It's not that I don't work out anymore, but I did that workout and I couldn't walk, like could not walk. And it was during the moving. I had to go to a chiropractor like every single day and just get all this like stuff done to my body so that I could function. And then I could walk for like 3 minutes and not anymore. Like it was just so extreme. And so I had to slow down. I started working with a trauma-informed physical trainer, which was hilarious because her job was to make me slow down. Like she wasn't training me to lift more or whatever. She was literally like, working with me like, okay, we're going to slow down slowly because it's so overwhelming for you to slow down. So we're going to actually do it very slowly. Like it's funny, but it's true because I just couldn't stop. So that was that was a very gradual process, you know, of like, okay, instead of running really fast, I'll run less fast, like that. And the rest, you know, I got really burnt out. I mean, are you surprised? I got really, really burnt out. I was working really hard because I didn't want to deal with my unhappiness in my marriage. So I just was working and thinking about work nonstop. And I was also the breadwinner. So I was like total survival mode. And I got so burnt out that I couldn't even be with clients. Like I had no you know how much capacity it is to be with another human.
Yeah.
So I had to start doing yoga nidra. So I started, it's so lovely.
Yoga nidra.
I love just before our podcast, I did one actually.
Oh,
so
lovely.
I started doing them, you know, every day. And also something about moving here, like the pace here is slow. The weather unpredictable. You know, you could plan a hike and then it's raining and then you're like, okay, no hike. And that has made my nervous system much more flexible. Because it's like, oh, I'm not going to die if I don't go on this hike. Like, I'm still safe because that was the way I stayed safe, you know? And so
what you're pointing out there, I just want to highlight that, like how so many of us, and I recognize myself in this, like the kind of fixity and the reliability, particularly in America, like where we take for granted that things happen on a schedule. And having spent a lot of time in India and Southeast Asia, so that's my version of Costa Rica, like many other parts of the world just don't operate like that. And it really does impact nervous system tone in many ways.
Absolutely. And it's just like an acceptance of like, it might get done, it might not get done, you know, like this is life here. And so you just kind of like go with the flow. And of course there are advantages and disadvantages to it, but you just have to. Even with the internet, you know, like sometimes
it's working, it's not working.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I remember even like with clients, I had to be perfect with my clients. And when the internet wouldn't work, I would flip out. And then they're like, okay, we'll do our session tomorrow. You know, like nobody dies. Like calm the fuck down.
I love that. I know it's a friend, one of my like dearest soul family friends who has a very different relaxation around this kind of stuff. Like she'll travel and she'll be like, yeah, I'm going to see a client like on the phone from my car, as opposed to like, I need to be in front of the Zoom screen, like with my perfect background. And it's like, the client doesn't care about your background. They care about your presence.
Yes.
Like, which, and I mean, I'm speaking about a work scenario, but I think that this is also a really valuable like pivot into personal relationship for how much we can place pressure on appearances and like things needing to be just so and just right. Like all anyone really, really wants from us, in my experience, is presence. Totally. And it's what we're most craving from others. And thus we need to learn how to cultivate some of that in ourselves, which brings us back to this ease topic. And I want to highlight something that you mentioned briefly just a few moments ago. You made the mention of being in survival mode. How does one learn how to get out of that? To go from the survival mode, the nervous system tone, the striving, the doing, into a state of ease, of beingness, of presence? Like what do you I mean, I know that's a big topic. What do you have to say about that one, Marina?
It's big and it's so good. I just want to mention one more thing that I guess was really important. You said a good friend and it like jogged my memory. Recently, one of my really good friends told me that I have a poker face. And I was like, really? And then I started asking around and, you know, people are like, yeah, okay. So nobody knows when I'm struggling because as a kid, you know, I would just hide it. I had to. And also like Soviet culture is very like, everything's okay. You're not happy. You're not sad. Just everything's okay. That's it. So that was also very interesting to break my perfectionism. I'm not saying I'm 100% there, but I'm able to say to friends, I look fine, but I'm not fine, just so you know. like I know I look.
You look beneath the hood, there's a little more going on here.
Exactly. And so then like people show up more for me. So anyway, I love your question. I think there's so many parts to it. So first of all, recognizing what does survival mode feel like in our bodies, right? Like it feels either you're shut down or you're elevated. Those are the ways that it shows up in our body, and also in our thoughts, which are either like really desperate, helpless, hopeless, that's a shutdown, or angry and like very intense and extreme. And so that like noticing and awareness in the moment is very helpful, because you're like, okay, I am triggered. I am in survival mode right now, and I can actually do some practices to become more regulated before, making decisions and writing emails and doing work and dating and all these things. Like from that space is very harmful. Like the results are not going to be what we want from that state. And then there is the healing of trauma, because trauma basically clogs up our systems and makes us more likely to get triggered and live in that survival mode. And so it's always like, of course, in layers. I think the layer that I'm accessing now and working with a lot of clients on is around needs and desires, which I know is your wheelhouse. Desire.
It is.
But it's like, it's so interesting, because I was talking to a friend last night. She was really upset and sad, and she's like, I'm just trying to accept, because she had a desire, and she's like, I'm just trying to accept that it's just life, that it's okay where I'm at. And I'm like, but that's not what you want. You want something different. And acceptance is telling yourself, this is what I want right now, and accepting that. Like, we don't need to fight that, that creates stress in our bodies. And so like, allowing our feelings and like our desires, like, this is what I want, even though I'm not getting it, and not fighting it.
And that's the difference right there, right? You get to want whatever you want. Desire is the ultimate creative force. So whether we're speaking about the most like carnal desires, like this is how I want to be ravished by my lover, and I want you to do these things to me, or I want to go live in Costa Rica, or, like I want a multi-million-dollar business, or whatever your desire is, holding that and embracing that desire is beautiful. Attaching a whole lot of expectations about when and how and by whom those desires are going to be fulfilled, that's where we get into trouble. But I love what you're saying, that like it's not actually acceptance. If we choose to not accept our desire, can we accept it, set ourselves up in alignment with it, but also like hold it loosely? It is, like energetically, like, yeah, like just allowing is a big part of it.
Do you find, like, I've been finding, I had 2 super interesting experiences last year with men, and I think that they came specifically into my life to make me be okay with desires, because it's never been allowed for me in my life. And I always had to do things like, this is how it works. Like, these are the rules, and this is how you function. And I think that I find that if you just allow yourself to want something, you already hold it lighter. Maybe not super light, but you don't like hang on so strongly, because it's like you don't ask for permission. Like, you're just letting yourself like want, and you feel that, and there's no story, and then there's more lightness to it.
I 100% agree. Like, our desire has such aliveness to it. So like when I say it's the ultimate creative force, I mean, this is not my own original thought here. This is the essence of the tantras as like an esoteric body of wisdom. This is, we see it in the natural world, like in the plant kingdom, for instance. Like, nothing would grow if there was not some encoded desire to reach towards sunlight or send roots down to where the moisture and the sustenance is. Like, this is really what gives life. So yeah, when you're not allowing it, there's a tightness, there's a pressure that has to come in, because you're actually like working against the forces of nature. Whereas when you say, yes, this is what I desire, you're getting yourself more like attuned to the frequency of life, truly. And so when, people who talk about manifestation and flow and so on and so forth, like, I really think that this is the same thing. It's just allowing what you desire to be what you desire, and then trusting life to kind of help you fill in the details about how it becomes manifest.
I love that. And I feel like I want you to talk more about that on your podcast and everywhere, because I almost carried it like a badge of honor to not desire, or to make my desire smaller.
Yeah.
Because
a lot of us do.
Yeah. And it was just so normal from my childhood. Like, I was really rewarded for obedience. And what is obedience? It's like someone tells you what to do, and then you do it, even if you don't like it or you don't want it inside. And
we are seeing so many examples of that, macrocosm, microcosm, personally, collectively.
Totally. Yeah. So it's just so funny to me how the universe works, and like these experiences that I had last year, like, just
tell us a little more if you're up for it. How have you opened to desire thanks to these men that came into your life?
Oh, one is particularly juicy and I can talk about. I actually wrote a book about him and the whole experience. Yes, I finished it in 3 weeks, writing the draft, because I love to write, but it needs a lot of work. I ended up last year driving at night and having this intuition and seeing a guy who was homeless and an addict, which obviously I didn't know in the moment, but I got to know, and pulling over and chatting to him and falling in love with him.
Wow.
Yep.
And how does one fall in love with the guy on the side of the road if you're Marina?
Yes, it happened instantly. Like, now I understand, but in the moment, like, there was like, no, we're separate. I'm here to help, this kind of energy. But it was exactly when I became estranged from my family. Okay. And I moved. My really good friend offered me to stay at her place, and he was like minutes away. So every day I would see him just driving, and I would stop by. We would chat for hours and hours and hours. And yep, that's what happened.
Wow. And what of your desire, what of you do you feel like you've gotten more in touch with thanks to that connection?
Oh, what of me? That's such a good question.
Because that's a belief that I hold. I'm not a coincidence believer. I think that things happen for a reason. Take that as you will. But, in romance, I can look back at even my most like gut and heart wrenching experiences where it's been like the most painful. And I'm like, and I don't ever want to see your face again. And I can still see what it is that I was able to claim within myself, or learn about myself, or a way that I got to grow and evolve and know something more about me, because our relationships are crucibles for that kind of growth if we let them be.
Absolutely. 100% in agreement with you. And I also think that we hold on to people, or we still feel that connection to people, as long as we have more to learn from them or from the relationship. First off,
ex-husband, like we've been divorced like 16 years at this point, and like I'm like, it was just a few years ago that I was still getting activated about some stuff. I'm like, oh, there's something for me to look at here. Yeah.
I think, one of the main things is like not following the rules, like just like in my head, like sitting there, I was like, no.
This doesn't make sense. This is not part of the plan.
No.
Not what the good girl does.
No, this is insane. Like, what are you doing? And thankfully, one of my really good friends came and actually just met him and watched me fall in love with him. And she was like, you have to try this, whatever this is, like, you have to. And I was like, okay, I'm not crazy. But of course I felt insane, I mean, so I think, yeah, learning that, like, it doesn't have to make sense, and you can just listen to your emotions and I'm feeling so seen, like so vulnerable and so seen, like I've never felt in my entire life. The connection, the joy, like it's so interesting, because even just this morning I was thinking about how at the end of my marriage I was really not enjoying it. Like I was just not enjoying being there, with this person. And that was my relationship with my dad my entire life. Like it was not fun being around him, but it was like, well, you have to. You just tolerate. And I've tolerated like so much. And then of course there was also like boundaries and leaving when he continued to do drugs, and like standing up for that, even though I still love him very, very much to this moment, but saying like, if you get healthy, let's go. But if not, no, so that complexity, being in that. But honestly, like this man has taught me more than any human on the planet.
Wow. What a gift that your paths cross in that way. And I want to, this word tolerating that you just brought up, a lot of us do that. A lot of us tolerate, a lot of us endure because we don't necessarily even know, or believe that better is possible. We fear the repercussions, like we all have our reasons why. It's adaptive strategies, right? And yet then I love a play on words. In somatics, we talk about a window of tolerance, right? Like we talk about growing our nervous system's capacity to actually be with that discomfort that can be generative, that can be growth of like, ooh, here is me not tolerating anymore. And that might be where your window of tolerance grows. So
I love that. I've never thought of this. That's cool. Yeah.
So I would love to take this in the direction of like, what are some particular practices or tips that you use for yourself, that you share with the many people all over the world that you're supporting? Like, how do you guide people into their growth for more of that ability to hold charge, which is really what the window of tolerance is all about. We can meet those charge moments of life and not be completely taken over and derailed by them.
Yeah. We work a lot with triggers. So when people get triggered, actually noticing like what's coming up for them in their bodies and staying with that and noticing where it's connected to in their childhood, like what is it bringing up. And then all of my clients essentially struggle to feel their emotions just like I used to. Mm-hmm. And so we work on widening the tolerance for feeling our emotions, and being with them in our bodies and expressing, like that's the next level, but that we get there slowly. And then, really listening to in this question of like tolerating, like listening to their needs in each moment. Like I literally have to show them a list and we talk about, okay, like what did you need in that moment? What are you needing? And I think this distinction in relationships is really tricky between like I'm triggered with my own stuff or I'm tolerating something that is not working for me.
Yeah, that can be hard to discern when you're kind of just like, I'm pissed, I'm activated. Like, it's like, what is actually behind that? And so that requires at least a little moment of pause to be able to inquire with yourself. How does someone grow that capacity to pause?
I think that's purely practice, honestly. It is kind of funny because I've been single for a while and I was just telling my friend like, wow, I feel like such a good person when I'm single because I get way less triggered. Like, I'm so nice. I love this version of me.
Because nobody's around to piss me off.
I am so not an asshole. It's great. So that, like practicing, but also I think that it's so huge to work on your expression of your desires and your needs, because I think that our window of tolerance will start shrinking more and more and more the more bitter and resentful we become. And then pausing is really hard because we have this suitcase of like, and I know I did that in my marriage, which was so unfair. Like I wouldn't express for a while and then it would all come out.
Oh.
And I couldn't stop. I could not stop at that point. Like,
I swear to you, this is a true story. The night that my marriage ended, we had a fight over my ex-husband's use of styrofoam cups. Because that was just what everything that I hadn't said, like, funneled into that. And my eco-justice warrior was like, how could you? There's a reusable bottle right there. I am not making this stuff up. That was me 16 years ago, y'all.
yeah, that makes sense. I actually would love to share one of the things that ended my marriage, which is so connected to your work and to this, is around sex.
Yeah.
Because when I went into the marriage, I was not interested in having sex at all. I went through sexual assault and I was just so cut off from it. And then, with somatic experiencing and healing, my trauma responses, like I couldn't even be touched. I was so startled with any feeling that a man is thinking about sex, because I can feel that right away. Done, shut off. And so I really worked on that, and I started becoming very interested in sex, and I went to a wonderful sex coach, and we made a list of what turns me on. So that was really fascinating because it's so connected to our life. Like it wasn't like things in bed, it was like things in life.
Yeah, because eroticism is not just in the bedroom. It's our creativity everywhere.
Yes. Yeah, it's fascinating. So anyway, it ended over that because there was no willingness on the other side to be with that, version of me, but it's just really interesting, like what happened. And I don't think that I'm perfect at this whatsoever, but like expressing your needs and desires, even just to yourself. Like this is what I work with clients on, and I practice in my friendships a lot, even to say like, I actually don't want to go to this restaurant that you want to go to. And that's like it could be a small disconfirming experience because the person on the other side is like, oh, okay. Like I was on a friend's podcast and I felt like she talked way too much for me. She was interviewing me and I was terrified because she invited me back and I love her and I wanted to do it, but I was like, that wasn't the experience I wanted, and I was terrified. Like I grew up with a narcissistic father. There's no way you could say any of these things to him. And I was like, I told her, I'm practicing speaking up. So I'm going to tell you, and I'm really scared. And she was like, oh, okay. No big deal. Sure. I'll talk less. And she did. It was great.
I love the simplicity of that on her end. And I think it's just such a great example too, though, how we create a story to confirm our fear, our anxiety, our worst case scenario. And we're living inside of that story, regardless of what the consensus reality is. Right?
Totally.
And you did the brave thing. You leaned into your vulnerability. You said, this is hard for me to do, and I'm going to practice this anyway. And check that out. You got what you needed and wanted.
So great. And you get closer to those people. Yes. And you go through the disconfirming experience of like, oh, like your nervous system can feel, okay, that was uncomfortable, but I'm safe. I spoke up and I'm safe with a safe person. So that's a huge part of my work with people. It's like the disconfirming experiences are also with me, as a practitioner.
Can you pause for a moment and just define disconfirming experience in case someone's like, wait, what are we talking about here?
Yeah. I don't even know if I actually heard an official definition, but it's just been such a theme in my life. So it came up, in my mind. So basically, if in your childhood you've had an experience over and over again, many, many times, that was very traumatic. And it could be really small, so you don't even recognize that it's a big deal, but it is. Like being invalidated, being not having someone to go to with your emotions. Again, I'm not saying that's small, like no big deal. It's a huge deal.
Right, but it plays out in small little instances repeatedly.
Exactly. Or you're like you say something that you want, and then, you know, when I was like 5, maybe I told my mom I wanted a doll. She said, we don't have money for this doll. And I said, it's okay. You can buy it for me when you have money. And she used it as this beautiful example of what a wonderful child I was. And I got so sad every time because I'm like, no, like I wasn't allowed to want anything, you know? And I would always protect my mom's feelings, because I knew she would feel shame and guilt for not being able to buy me this doll. Anyway, so these kinds of experiences confirm the story, right, and create the story. And then we have the story and we're walking around the world and it's like, this is how it is, you know? For me, it was like, I'm not really being seen. You know, I can't be seen by men.
Right.
And then suddenly
here you are, more seen than you've ever been by the guy on the side of the road.
Yes, on the street corner. And
it all goes full circle.
And I think, yes. And I think to get to that point, I had to do a lot of inner work somatically to learn to be vulnerable, because I would have never done that otherwise. But then I had to go and choose that, and choose not to wall off, and choose to like allow someone to see me, and then be like, oh wow, that was so beautiful. Like that felt so good. Like I came to an oasis in the desert, you know, after so many years, 14 years of starvation and, you know, thirst. That's how it felt. So these, you know, and they don't have to be so big and explosive. Like another sweet example is like, I had a crush on a guy and I was all giddy. And again, I wasn't allowed to be giddy as a kid. And I just couldn't stop in front of my friend. Like she could just see it. And she's like, oh my God, you're like a teenager right now. And I'm like, stop. And she's like, it's so cute. It makes me love you more.
Oh, I love that. I'm thinking about a time when a couple of my girlfriends like reflected something similar to me of like, you're being so cute right now. And I'm like, cute? No, that's not safe. We don't do that. And they're like, but this is great. We get to love you in this place. Oh,
yeah,
so special.
It's so beautiful. So those are, you know, and then our nervous system is like, oh, okay, yeah, it was uncomfortable, but I am safe and I can keep doing this and it's okay. And then the trauma part becomes more discerning. So it doesn't mean it's like gone, because there are people in my life I don't want to be vulnerable with, you know, and that's really smart. But there are people that I do.
Yeah. Right. So we don't want to paint everybody with a single brush. That discernment lets us know, like, this is a person I can safely be vulnerable with. This is a person where I can be in my ease. I don't have to have the vigilance and all the defenses up. Like, and that's such a valuable thing to get to experience.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I feel like we could continue this conversation for 5 more hours easily.
Agreed. With ease.
And such delight. It's always really fun to be with other somatic nerds who and vulnerable storytellers who are willing to share from their direct lived experience and raise our hands and be like, yeah, not perfect over here, by the way. So thank you for your recovering perfectionism among all the other isms and things. I respect it tremendously. Marina, how do folks get at you? Because I know, I'm like, I want to be in Marina's world. Where do they find you? How do they lean into your beautiful body of somatic guidance?
I'm on Instagram at marina.y.t, and then my podcast is Deep Within. Those are the best places to hear about my work and what I'm working on at the moment.
Great. We're going to link those. I think we have a link to like an attachment practice or something like that. Is that correct?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So all that information is going to be there. And if these books that were mentioned are getting published anytime soon, we'll want to know about that too. I heard that. I caught that.
I hope this year. Yeah, I wrote it quickly, but it's like going back and forth in the timeline, and so now 4 of my friends have it in their hands, and they're gonna tell me if it's confusing and then I wanted to take it to an editor. So it's gonna come out this year, I think.
Amazing. Good for you for getting that done. Thank you, Marina, and for everything that's been shared. Before we go, is there any last little drop of depth, a little last something that you feel like you want to leave folks with? It could be an echo of what we already talked about. It could be something that we didn't get to. What can you leave folks with today from your beautiful experience and wisdom?
I think we talked about this, yes, around what does acceptance look like, and now you're inspiring me to go record a whole podcast on it, which is to name what is happening in this moment, what you feel, what you desire, what you need, to name it, and that's it. To not be like, but I shouldn't, but whatever. I want this. This is what I have.
Powerful practice. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it so much.
I'm delighted. And for those of you who've tuned in, thank you for being with us. Thanks for the gift of your attention. If you loved what you heard, go ahead and leave us a rating and a review, share it, and I will be back with you next week for our next episode.